the last episode, we saw how 4 days in August 1953 toppled Iran's democracy and put the Shah on the throne. In this one, we're jumping forward 26 years to show how that secret coup came back to haunt the United States in the form of revolution, hostages, and a nuclear standoff. On the surface, Iran in the 1960s and 70s looked like a success story. Highways, skyscrapers, American jets on the tarmac, the Shah shaking hands with US presidents. Washington pointed to Iran as proof that its Cold War strategy was working. A modernizing, Western-friendly monarchy right in the middle of the Middle East. But underneath, a lot of Iranians never forgot one thing. This king had been rescued by a foreign coup. Every arrest, every torture story, every disappeared dissident carried the shadow of 1953. The Shah's power rested on 3 pillars: American backing, oil money, and a security state built to crush anyone who questioned the arrangement. His secret police, Savak, trained with help from the CIA and Israeli intelligence, monitored students, silenced journalists, and tortured political prisoners. For many Iranians, modernization and repression were 2 sides of the same coin. When Iranians poured into the streets in 1979, they weren't just protesting a king. They were protesting a system they believed had been built in a CIA backroom. In their minds, kicking out the Shah was also about kicking out 1953, erasing the era when Washington and London could decide who ran Iran. And the coalition that rose up was unlike anything the world expected. Religious clerics, Marxist students, liberal nationalists, bazaar merchants. Groups that agreed on almost nothing except that the Shah had to go. In January 1979, the Shah fled Iran for the last time. Within weeks, Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile and declared a new Islamic Republic. The revolution was fast, dramatic, and deeply personal for millions of Iranians who saw it as their answer to 1953. To Americans, the embassy takeover looked like sudden, irrational hatred. Masked students climbing walls, blindfolded diplomats paraded on television. It was shocking, and it felt like it came out of nowhere. But to the students who stormed the compound, the embassy wasn't just a building. It was the place where, in their minds, the last coup had been organized. They believed that if they didn't act, 1953 would happen again. Another Mossadegh overthrown, another foreign-made ruler installed. 52 Americans were held hostage for 444 days. The crisis dominated US television every single night. It practically invented the 24-hour news cycle. For Americans, Iran went from an ally to an enemy almost overnight. And here's the detail that made things worse. Inside the embassy, the students found thousands of shredded documents. They painstakingly reassembled them and published the contents: cables, intelligence reports, names of Iranian contacts. To Iranians, it was proof that the embassy had always been a spy station. Whether that was fair or not, it locked in the narrative on both sides. By the time the world starts arguing about Iran's nuclear program, neither side is really starting from zero. They're arguing with the ghosts of 1953 and 1979 standing in the room. After the hostage crisis, Washington and Tehran severed diplomatic relations, and they've never restored them. The US backed Saddam Hussein in his 8-year war against Iran, then piled on sanctions. Iran funded militant groups that targeted American allies, and when President Bush named Iran part of the Axis of Evil in 2002, it confirmed what Iranian hardliners had been saying all along. America would never accept their revolution. You can't understand why every nuclear deal is so fragile without understanding that both sides think the other side has already betrayed them. Decades ago, Washington looks at Tehran and sees a regime that held its diplomats hostage and chants death to America. Tehran looks at Washington and sees the country that destroyed its democracy in 1953 and backed a dictator for 26 years. Every negotiation, every inspection, every deadline sits on top of that foundation of mutual suspicion. And that's why agreements that look perfectly logical on paper keep falling apart in the real world. 4 days in 1953 kept the Shah in power. Those years of foreign-backed rule helped fuel the 1979 revolution. The revolution led to the hostage crisis and the permanent enemy label. That enemy label turned every argument, from missiles to nuclear fuel, into a fight between two countries haunted by the same event, remembered very differently. So when people ask, why do Iran's leaders distrust the US so much? Or why does Washington see Iran as such a threat? The answers don't start with a nuclear facility or a speech at the United Nations. They start with a coup in 1953, a revolution in 1979, and 52 hostages in between. Do you think there could have been a peaceful relationship between the US and Iran if 1953 had never happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments. In the next episode, we're zooming in on the nuclear file itself. How much of what you hear is real risk? How much is politics? And how much is a story both sides tell to their own people? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it.